A great scientist could notice a pattern in nature where all the others could have completely missed.
For an example, Sir Isaac Newton noticed that the forces acting on a fired cannonball is equal to the force acting by the moon on the earth. Ernest Rutherford is also such a scientist. He realized that the atoms have a heavy nucleus. The way moon orbits the earth is the same as the electron orbits the nucleus of atoms.
Were both these hypotheses correct? Newton was correct, however Rutherford was wrong. The atom is completely different, but we still use the Rutherford's model in order to observe how the atom looks.
This is the most familiar image we have of the atom. A real atom is shockingly different. An atom is not mostly empty space, as you all know.
How does an actual atom look like? And how do we determine that?
Why doesn't an electron fall into a nucleus as they attract each other really strongly? Why can't we squeeze atoms together?
The answer lies inside quantum mechanics. Why do we trust quantum mechanics? How can we arrive at this conclusion? This is one of the most accurate and proven theories in science. So how does the atom look like? The answer is coming up right now. In 1911, Ernest Rutherford proposed the planetary model of the atom.
According to his model, the solar system and atoms are identical. The moon revolves around the earth due to gravity. Similarly, Rutherford proposed the negatively charged electron was held in orbit around a positively charged nucleus. The attractive force was electromagnetism instead of gravity.
This seems to make sense. Isaac Newton's law of universal gravitation was almost identical to the Coulomb's law of electrostatic force. The term G is the universal gravitational constant and K is the Coulomb's constant. This was a fantastic and an extraordinary phenomenon in nature, but it was too good to be true.
One big problem was when electrons are accelerated when constantly changing direction of traveling in circular orbits, it creates electromagnetic waves according to Maxwell's equations. What it means is that photons would constantly radiate from the electron, causing it to lose energy. A rainbow of colors is radiated and eventually it would collapse into the nucleus.
Using classical laws for the atom did not work with the Rutherford's model. A new model was needed.
Rutherford realized that 11 years earlier in 1900, Max Planck has already made a formula that energy of photons was quantized. Planck's theory showed that matter emitted only a discrete amount of radiation with energy is equal to hf, where the proportionality constant h is the Planck's constant. However, Niels Bohr combined Rutherford's model and Planck's theory to hypothesize that electrons can exist in certain special orbits without radiating energy. Bohr noticed that Planck's constant had the units of angular momentum. So he hypothesized that those orbits would have allowed the angular momentum of the electron is quantized based on the Planck's constant, and he guessed that the lowest orbit has the momentum of h over 2π. 2π comes from the geometry of circular orbits. Any orbit could exist as long as it is an integer multiple of this number. So what is the next orbit? It is basically 2 times h over 2π. Then comes 3 times h over 2π and so on. Bohr predicted that electrons would absorb or radiate energy when these electrons jump from one orbit to another. Bohr could not explain why special orbits exist in the first place or why electrons would not emit photons all the time.
We can find the size of the orbit of the electron from the Coulomb's law. Presuming that Bohr was right, the radius of the smallest was 0.529 times 10 to the power minus 10 meters. That is about half of an angstrom. The size of the atom was now known, which was a complete mystery before. The energy emitted by the electron as it changes orbit could be calculated, and the observations from energy emissions proved these calculations. So the Bose model was right. The total energy is equal to the kinetic energy plus the potential energy. And by last, we obtained that the total energy is equal to minus 2.17 times 10 to the power minus 18 joules. The model predicted the values that could be verified. Thereby, it was thought that this was how the atoms really look like.
Bohr's model of the atom was not the final answer. Then came a French scientist of the name Louis de Broglie. He stated that the particle has a momentum and a wavelength associated with it because of the Planck's constant. So he stated that the electron is a probability wave.
He suggested that matter are things that we can see and feel at the same time in a micro scale, and they exist in wave nature as well. So matter exists in particle and wave nature at the same time.
De Broglie stated that the electrons exist in orbits where their waves interfere constructively, and that can only happen when the circumference of the orbit is equal to the wavelength, twice the wavelength, 3 times the wavelength, or any integer times wavelength. This explains why orbits would be at the radii that they are, which is something Bohr couldn't do. Bohr's model was an incredible step. But what is the nature of these waves, and how and why do they exist? An Austrian physicist of the name Erwin Schrödinger was the scientist who gave the crucial piece of the puzzle. He stated if it's a wave, it can exist anywhere in the three-dimensional space, and he formulated the rules to describe the behavior of these waves. The rules lied inside the Schrödinger's equation, without a doubt the most important equation in quantum mechanics. The rules were amazing in making predictions and successful that no one could question about it. Schrödinger's equation explained the hydrogen atom with more detail and also described all the other atoms in the periodic table, which the Bohr model could not explain. This was something extraordinary.
This was not Newtonian mechanics. This was a new form of mechanics in the name of quantum mechanics. It started with the revolution from Max Planck. The Schrödinger's equation that contains the wave function was the piece of information that was needed to determine what an atom looks like. So why can't we just go inside a material and observe how these atoms look like?
The problem we have is that the object should be large enough to reflect light. The largest atom is 1000 times smaller than the wavelength of visible light. Visible light is passing through these atoms and can't be seen as no light is reflected back. What happens if we use shorter wavelength light? Shorter wavelength light carries a heap of energy that it would interact with the electrons, changing it.
This is when Heisenberg's uncertainty principle comes to a play. It shows that the uncertainty of momentum times the uncertainty of position is always greater than a constant h over 4 phi. From the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, we can figure out that we cannot find how fast an electron is moving or the position of the electron at the same time.
The wave equation tells us that an electron forms a cloud around the nucleus, and it is given by the wave function. The cloud represents the probable place of the electron if we are to measure it. The cloud exists from the nucleus to very far from the nucleus. The volume of the atom is not empty. It is filled everywhere with a cloud of electrons. We can use the Schrödinger's wave equation to find the electron probability. The plot shows the probability of finding the electron from various distances from the nucleus of the hydrogen atom. The highest probability occurs at 0.529 times 10 to the power minus 10 meters, which is exactly equal to the Bohr radius. The radius obtained from quantum mechanics is equal to the radius calculated from classical mechanics. In the Bohr's model, the electron was assumed to be at this distance all the time, but in the Schrödinger's model, it is at this distance only some of the time. The highest probability is at this radius, but it can be elsewhere too. The difference is due to the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and the fact that electrons exist like a 3D wave. The same wave equation tells that the nucleus of the atom, which is in the case of the hydrogen atom, is also a cloud. The extent of the proton cloud is much smaller than the electron cloud, because it is much more massive, which can be seen in the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle equation, which states that the uncertainty of position times the uncertainty of momentum is always greater than or equal to a constant value h over 4 phi.
For an example, if we consider the electron cloud to be as massive as the Melbourne Cricket Stadium, the proton cloud would be as small as this marble right here.
The electron cloud is 100,000 times larger than the proton cloud. The idea of discrete spherical protons and neutrons in the nucleus or electrons orbiting around them is a fiction.
You can never see the hydrogen atom in this state, but if you manage to see it in this state without measuring it, this is a good approximation.
Hydrogen atom could exist in different shapes depending on the energy levels and the quantum state of the electron. Here are actual images of a hydrogen atom taken by international team of researchers in 2013. This is a definite proof that the 3D model is most likely to be correct. The question is, how can a photograph be taken without seeing it? This is not a direct image. If you read the paper, you can observe that it's a composite image based on the trajectory of electrons emitted by hundreds of hydrogen atoms after they have been excited by lasers. The first question is now answered. Why doesn't the electron fall into the nucleus if it is attracted towards it? If a meteor is dropped directly onto the earth with no angular momentum, it will hit the earth with a huge amount of energy. What happens in an atom? If you drop an electron with no angular momentum directly to a proton, it will not hit the proton directly. Why is it so? If so, it would violate the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, as delta P and delta X in the equation would be 0, and this can't happen. There will be always a balance in the position of momentum of an atom obeying the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So what exactly happens? The electron forms a cloud around the proton even if you drop it. You must now wonder, why can't you squish two atoms together? Why is it not possible? If you observe the chart showing the energy of electrons as a function of distance from the nucleus, the electron opts to stay in the lowest energy state, which is at a distance 0.529 times 10 to the power minus 10 from the nucleus. In order to squeeze atoms to smaller size, we have to increase the energy of the electron, which requires the electron to go to a higher energy state. Squeezing objects together requires a huge heap of energy as small as an atomic bomb. This is why we have solid objects like cell phones in our hands without squeezing them together. This is why we don't sink into solid ground. Quantum mechanics explains mysterious phenomena such as double slit experiment, entanglement, and a deeper reality which is hard to explain.
So guys, quantum mechanics is the base of reality. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Have a nice day.